We're just days away from the biggest fight of the year, a true super fight, but you probably haven't seen any build-up leading up to it. And Islam Makhachev blames Uncle Dana. Honestly, can't really argue with him, cause he's right. There has been next to no promotion for his first ever title defense, unless you count a 30-minute video posted by the UFC on their YouTube channel. I mean, who watches a 30-minute video? Where's the hype? Where's the action? Islam is right being pissed off at Dana White. He even expressed his disappointment in the lack of promotion in an interview with R Sports Russia. He said that Dana has some problems because he isn't paying much attention to this fight. The UFC head honcho sure has some problems. He could have done a much better job of promoting this and would have been able to pull in a colossal pay-per-view. But, as Islam highlighted, he only saw his opponent, Alexander Volkanovski, once.
Herzog standing by, giving Elkins every benefit of the doubt. Where's the horn? They go to the grounds. There it is.
There was no build-up to their match. There was no tour, no press conference. Doesn't that sound fishy to you? This could have easily pulled in millions in pay-per-view. It's literally champ versus champ, the newly crowned top dog of the lightweight division, which, mind you, is the most stacked in the UFC right now, going for his first title defense against the long-reigning king of the featherweights in the Aussie's backyard. And not to forget, these two guys are absolute beasts. The most dangerous men on the planet. The pound for pound #1 and #2. I mean, the narrative just writes itself. This could have been so big for the promotion. And for MMA fans around the world, it's just a dream scenario. Opportunities like these don't present themselves too often, and the UFC has clearly missed out on it. Well, the promotion has a habit of overlooking some of their international events, cause most of the pay-per-view purchases are from the US. But that doesn't mean they shouldn't promote this fight. True MMA fans would still want to watch this match. I mean, Islam is fairly well spoken, and he's very close with the former lightweight champion and legend Khabib Nurmagomedov. Press conferences wouldn't be that hard to pull off. In fact, they would have been really beneficial. But instead of promoting this massive fight, what has Dana been doing? He's been forcing his new Power Slap League on us, and he's calling that abomination a new sport. I'm really out of words here, guys. How is that thing a sport? Two guys slapping the hell out of each other without any protection or any way to defend themselves?
One, two.
That's just exploitation at its finest. Fans have been calling Dana out for this and saying that he'd rather promote the rubbish than actually highlight the super fight on his hands. And they're not wrong. Even MMA junkies Mike Bone pointed out that there was only one tweet out of the last 50 from UFC's official handle that focused on UFC 284, while there were 9 that were dedicated to Power Slap. This just shows where Dana's priorities lie. Similar is the case with their YouTube channel and their Instagram. They would rather just promote slap fighting, and the outrage is real. Dana went live on social media recently to announce Conor McGregor's return against Michael Chandler. A fan commented regarding how maybe the UFC Supremo would finally start promoting Makhachev versus Volkanovski instead of Power Slap League. White responded to this by saying, "Don't count on it." Yup, that's what he actually said. Disappointing how dismissive he is of two champions in his prime. But this isn't the first time he's done something like this. See, Dana has a history of being disrespectful towards his fighters. Back in the early 2000s, there was a series of legal battles between Randy Couture and the UFC. Mind you, this guy was a legend in the octagon. He held titles for the light heavyweight and heavyweight titles. And the reason for the disagreement? Contract terms. Listen, guys, the UFC is known to exploit its fighters. They don't pay them enough, and they refuse to cover their medical insurance. So it didn't matter to Dana if the guy was his champion. Also, you may remember how he sent a bogus contract to Khabib for the title fight. Later, he gave that fight to Conor. I mean, the man doesn't even have the backbone to tell that to the Eagle himself. Khabib found this out from the news. And most recently, there was the whole scene with Francis Ngannou. Dana refused to put the belt around his champion last year when Ngannou won against Cyril Gane. He claimed that he had to take care of something urgent backstage. Of course, everybody saw right through it. He just didn't like the fact that the guy whose contract was running managed to win with an injured knee. That's just petty if you ask me, just like he was a couple of days ago. It was in a recent press conference when Dana was asked about UFC 284, and seemingly he forgot Islam's name when talking about the upcoming fight in Perth, Australia. This looked like an honest mistake, but many of the fans are convinced that White did this deliberately. Makhachev did slam him a week ago for his inability to promote the fight, and that's not all there was. Dana also apparently forgot Khabib's name when he was talking about the highest ever pay-per-view sales. He said that it was between Conor and someone. How do you forget the name of one of the greatest fighters in the history of the sport? That's just disrespectful. It seems that Dana still harbors some kind of grudge against the Dagestani boys. Why else would he be pulling something like this? This also explains his reluctance in promoting the super fight between Islam and Alex. As you can guess, fans had a field day after this blunder. Many think he's more focused on the Power Slap League than the UFC. MMA has clearly dropped from the list of priorities at the moment. One thing hasn't changed though. He still wants to make a profit off of violence. For years, the athletes have been raising their voices against the meager pay in the promotion. The UFC lost its heavyweight champion because of it. They refused to offer any kind of compensation for what these guys go through inside the octagon. Ngannou decided to put his foot down. The UFC even offered him $8 million to take the fight against John Jones, but the Predator refused. He wasn't going to let them throw money in his face to keep his mouth shut. One of the many things he demanded during his contract negotiations was better pay for all the fighters, and he asked them for health insurance to cover the medical expenses these guys have to bear on their own. Of course, he could cover his own expense. He was just looking out for the guys who didn't do so well at the promotion. Then there's the case with the slap fighting thing. If you've seen a single episode of that show, then you'll know what I'm talking about. These guys are at the bottom of the barrel, and the only way for them to make money is to come to the show and get slapped across the face. As I said before, they can't defend themselves at all. They can't even flinch. Like, several participants have been knocked out cold. A guy literally forgot where he was or what he was doing. If that's not exploitation, I don't know what is. Recently, it was revealed that the contestants get paid only $4,000 to get hit in the face, and that's only if they manage to win. Maybe Dana should focus more on an actual sport rather than taking advantage of poor guys willing to do anything for some money. That's all the latest outcry on UFC's inability to promote Makhachev versus Volkanovski. See you in the next one.